Press start. Begin.
So this is this is Crash Bandicoot 3. I'm the 8-bit beast. I make tool-assisted speedruns of this game. I know a lot about it, but I'm not very good at it. This is Rexaaayyy. He knows a lot about it, and he is good at it. So first thing we did there was turned off sound effects, and that skips some cutscenes when you enter levels. So normally there's these blue vortex cutscene things, and they take a little while to load. Even though we can skip them, we turn off sound effects to stop them loading altogether. That saves about a minute, but it means we don't get sound effects for the run. In this level, you have to hold the boost button as much as you can. Sometimes you do have to slow down, but hopefully you won't have to slow down too much. And every jump that you do saves a frame. So that's 1/30th of a second that every jump saves. And it doesn't seem like much, but they do add up when you're jumping over the whole level. There's a skip at the end of this level that's quite difficult to go for. Hopefully he gets it. We call it Cuddle Skip. And normally Coco cuddles, but here we go. Very, very close. And you can he sort of clipped into the roof and did a jump out of the roof, and with that you can get enough height to make it into the warp. But it's really inconsistent, and that's why they do this level first, just to get it out of the way. And if you were doing a serious attempt in a marathon setting, you'd probably reset off this. So this is the water level, and we're doing this before we do any platforming levels because he wants to get masks from this water level. So he's going to go through and hopefully get 2 masks and not lose any. And then that will allow him to use invincibility. And the invincibility just lets you move a bit faster. So by coming into the platforming levels with the mask, as many masks as he can get more invincibilities and move faster. You can't get invincibility underwater though, so we use this level to get the first 2 masks. And water movement is, you have to spin a lot, and in between the spins you have to paddle as well. These turning circle-y things, they're actually on global cycles, so as soon as you power on the PlayStation, or PlayStation 2 in our case, they basically start turning. So yeah, they're sort of predictable, but sort of not. And yeah, while there are 2 masks in this level, getting the second mask is a little bit too slow, so he's only got 1. But he'll be able to get invincibility in this first platforming level coming up. This game has a lot of gimmicks, like vehicles that you can ride in swimming levels, but this is an example of a level where you're just doing classic Crash Bandicoot platforming. So you'll see him sliding a lot and jumping out of it. Sliding is the fastest form of movement, but when you end a slide, you lose a bunch of speed, so you have to kind of either jump or spin to get out of that slide. And the reason that he's jumping is because in this game, if you do a slide and then a jump, and if you don't hold the D-pad or the analog stick during the jump, you actually keep a lot of the slide speed for a lot of the jump. It's called a neutral slide jump. And with invincibility, the neutral slide jumps are even faster. So yeah, that's why we get as many masks as we can. In Crash 2 speedruns, there's something called a neutral slide spin, which is similar to a neutral slide jump. And well, in Crash 2 you slide and then you let go of all the analog stick and the D-pad and then you spin. In Crash 3 you do the same thing, but instead of spinning you jump. And it's funny because from Crash 2 to 3 they fixed neutral slide spins, but they introduced neutral slide jumps, so yeah, it's interesting. We got the level where the dinosaur chases you. It's not too hard to outrun him, but you gotta know what's coming up. You'll notice Rexaaayyy is sliding off of ledges and sliding through the earth. That's a way to basically extend how far your slide goes. So the slide is so much faster than all other movement. So like that, he's just done a big slide off the end there. And that, a longer slide means you're moving faster. So a little bit about this category. This is 80% no item glitch. So this category is basically going to beat all 25 standard levels in this game, and he doesn't have to get any of the 100% stuff, so no gems or anything like that, just the 25 crystals to beat the game. There is a faster category, 80%, although that involves bouncing on lines for about 10 or 15 minutes, and it's pretty boring. So this is probably the most popular category of this game, and it's much more fun and yeah, less annoying to run. For reference, this category is about 44 minutes, and the pure 80% category, I believe it's about 20 minutes now. And if you get all 105%, that takes a little over 2 hours. So now we've got one of the most exciting levels in the game, the jet ski levels. So there's not really much speed tech here apart from don't die. There's a little bit of stuff that's basically common sense, but not much apart from that. Hug corner's really tight, and that's pretty much it. There's also the option of taking these ramps to boost you upwards, but that's the same speed as just going straight to the water. So you don't have to take the ramps, but you can if you want. Probably also worth mentioning that Rexaaayyy at the moment is playing on the NTSC version, which is the American version. The reason for that is it's a little bit faster in some parts, but more importantly, the NTSC version actually has more crates with Aku-Akus in them, so the masks that you have for health. So for all you who played this game, the Australian version, we got the harder version because it had less masks. But the good thing about playing NTSC is that having more masks means you can get invincibility more often, which means that you can move faster. And it's a little bit safer as well. Unfortunately, he's lost a mask there, but he should be able to get it back up soon. But losing the mask there does save 1 or 2 frames, so it's okay. So this is the first boss fight coming up. You've got to hit him, and then lines come out. You've got to hit him, then lines come out, and then you've got to hit him. With the lines, you can cheese it by standing in this corner, and they don't get you. Actually, they've figured this out, and in the remakes, the Insane Trilogy, if you stand in this spot, the crowd actually throws cheese at you. And you have the potential to slip over on the cheese and die, actually. So it's pretty funny that they acknowledged that, and they didn't fix it, but they really made a joke about it.
Sound, by the way. So sorry? That was meant to have no sound, by the way, so it's not broken or anything. No, that's all good, yeah. Yeah. As Rexaaayyy mentioned, yeah, no sound in this level. The reason for that is because if you skip the intro cutscene too fast, it yeah, doesn't have any music. Yeah. And we already have the SFX turned off for the cutscene skips, so yeah, that makes no sound. So we're done with the first warp room, heading off to the second now. This level has quite a few masks in it, so Rexaaayyy should hopefully be able to pick up an invincibility at some point here. And you'll see him go up onto the side every now and then, and the reason for that is that he can slide off of the side of the level and extend his slide a little bit. So a lot of the little optimizations that come in with this game is just sliding off of ledges to extend it. Another thing that he's doing is something called zigzagging. So as I said, he does slide jumping, and the jumps, he doesn't press anything on the D-pad or analog stick. But during the slides, he's actually, so he's holding up for the direction of the slide, but he's sort of wiggling back and forth between up left and up right. And yeah, it's really interesting how that works actually, because if you think about it as an analog stick, the diagonals actually have more range than just holding along the axis, like up, down, left, or right. And that more range actually translates into Crash having more speed. So yeah, by wiggling left and right, you're doing diagonal inputs, but Crash is still pretty much moving forward. So zigzagging, if you do some Pythagoras, you work out that it actually gives you square root of 2 times the speed. So he'll be doing that through slides, but not through jumps. And for example, if he's going to the right, he'll be holding right and wiggling up right and down right. So the invincibility in this level is really useful because of the hangrails. So not only does it make you move faster with normal movement, but he's going really fast along these. When it runs out, you'll see how slow he would normally move if he's still on the hangrails. So you can see how slow you move without invincibility and why it's so important. Getting past that guy that was slashing his sword has a deceptively big hitbox, so getting past him is quite difficult. Rexaaayyy did a really good job of it there. And yeah, losing Master in this game is not only bad because you're sort of losing health, but it's also bad because you're missing out on opportunities for invincibility. And you can imagine if he'd lost a mask in that level before, the hangrails would have been really slow. So we'll be seeing him cut a lot of corners in this level, and cut across this. You can cut across this without activating the switch, and I think he probably just done that for marathon safety there. And these doors are sort of on global cycles, just like the wheels that turn in the underwater levels, but with invincibility, the doors actually all open for you. So that again is a reason why invincibility saves so much time in this game. And that's unlike other entries in this series where invincibility isn't actually that good and it doesn't speed you up. But they buffed invincibility in Crash 3. And you're supposed to start these platforms moving, but he can get across with some neutral slide jumps. So we've got our first driving level. This has got a little bit that goes into optimizing it. So he's going to get a boost at the start here. And eventually he'll be hitting zippers, which will give him a wheelie. And he's going to try and keep that for as long as he can. And that's quite difficult because while you have that boost, your turning is, it's much more difficult to turn. So hopefully he'll be able to keep this one all the way to the end of the level, I believe. But yeah, if you hit anything or have to turn really sharply, then you lose it. And normally in this game you have to hold the X button to go fast on the bike. But there's a little optimization here. Actually, if you let go of X, you save some time. So it's only about half a second. And yeah, that's a very strange mechanic because if you lose the wheelie state, then if you press X, you slow down faster. But if you're not pressing X, then kind of slow down more gradually and stay at a faster speed for longer. So this is the second level where Coco's riding Pyrrha. You can see even at the start when he was jumping to Pyrrha, he was zigzagging those jumps. So yeah, zigzagging is important and it saves a lot of time throughout the run. So once again, he's going to be jumping as much as he can. Every jump saves a frame. But yeah, this level's a lot more tricky, so it's very easy to die here. There's
also a glitch you can do in these levels where you get under the side barriers and you can do a lot of jumps really quickly, but if you try to do that glitch, you usually die, so it's not worth going for. Here's another cuddle skip here. Hopefully you can get it. This one's a lot harder than the first one. But he got it. Yeah, good job. So this is an interesting boss here. Dingo Tail will kind of shoot down these icicles so that you can get to him, but Rexaayy's just going to jump over those and get him anyway. So the reason that that works is something called a glitched high jump. So if you slide and then you kind of spin jump out of it, you get a lot more height than you normally would. So sliding and jumping is sort of like a height. If you slide and jump, it's higher than normally jumping. But if you slide and spin jump, it's even higher than that. But actually on the PAL version, like the Australian version, you can actually get over these icicles even easier. So you can just do a slide jump over those on PAL. But on NTSC, which Rexaaayyy is on, you need to do a slide spin jump. But it's definitely worth it for all the extra mask boxes that you get on NTSC. See that he went to the level 11 first, one of the wider levels. With a little bit more Pythagoras, you can figure out that saves a little bit of time. I'm not sure if that's why he did it, but... That's a shame. Those little Crash Bandicoot looking things can be a real pain, and they're quite difficult to get past sometimes. He's going to break the egg for the dinosaur here. But rather than waiting for the egg to open and get on the dinosaur, if you go a little bit further ahead, then the dinosaur will just be there waiting for you, and you don't have to wait for the egg to break open or anything. The dinosaur moves exactly as fast as the running shoes power up in this game. So you might remember at the end of the game, you get running shoes. Dinosaur moves that fast. But the real reason that they use that is because the dinosaur, I think you can jump through the reed grass stuff without slowing down too much. And it does big jumps as well. So these little blue water stream things speed you up, but their hitbox is kind of weird, so sometimes they don't work properly. And Rexaayy's going into double header now. This level can sometimes crash the game when it loads, so we're gonna hope that doesn't happen. I think we're good, yeah. So that's pretty rare, but if it happens when you're on a good run, it can be really bad because it's run over. And probably even worse if it were to happen in a marathon. We don't know exactly why that happens, but it's most likely due to there being so much going on in this level with all the lightning and everything and the rain, just causing a lot of lag and possibly the crash. Sometimes as well in this level you don't get the crash, but instead you get the like some weird corruption where the graphics glitch. I think there's actually a version of this game as well where the double header enemies only have one head. Is that Japanese maybe? Yeah, Japanese. And the wizards as well only take one hit on NTSC, but they take 2 hits on PAL. So once again, PAL is much harder than NTSC. There you go. And you can actually kill those double header enemies by jumping on their heads, but often it's a lot easier to go on the side and just avoid them altogether, which is what you'll see him doing a lot. I think in the Insane Trilogy they were sure to include that you could still go on the side like that, just to be faithful to the original. these spinny turbine things can be really annoying. They load sort of as you get near them, so they're not on a global cycle like some other things. They're just, yeah, pretty predictable but annoying. You actually do have to wait for some of them, but sometimes you can damage boost through them. But Rexaaayyy probably won't do that because invincibility save much more time than damage boosting through these. That section made me so nervous. Rexaayy's going to go over the hangrails there. That saves quite a lot of time. But it's a lot harder than it looks because there's a really high wall stopping you from going over there. You might have seen how high Crash was actually over the hangrails there. But it can be done with a glitched high jump. Yeah, these climbing sections are also very technical. But yeah, there's generally setups for a lot of this. Alright, so we got another driving level here. This is actually the longest driving level in the game, and it's the longest level in the run. An interesting thing about these driving levels is usually they're just like a straight sprint, but this one is actually a circuit. So you come back to where you started from, and the way that we know that is if you wait for a really long time on this level, the other drivers actually come back around and overtake you again. And you can sort of figure it out by seeing that there's some boxes past the finish line. But yeah, that's a little interesting fact about this one. So while we're finishing off this driving level, do we have any questions from the audience about the run or anything else? We'll often see Rexaaayyy going over some holes with the boost. And I'm not sure if he has any more left in this race, but yeah, there are some that are really difficult to make it over, but they're really useful because you keep the boost.
I've been running Crash for I think 4 years now. I started in 2014 with Crash 2, and I've just been hovering around changing games in the trilogy since. Yeah.
That might have been that he was driving over some holes, maybe. I don't know. So we've got the entropy fight coming up. All these enemies are very cleverly named. Entropy for the time guy. Now it is actually possible to get over there with him now, but if you try and get over there, he does this really big attack that kills you instantly and you can't hit him. So we do have to wait for his whole cycle. You can see that Rex was able to just jump over there anyway, but you do have to wait for him. I think in the remakes, the Insane Trilogy, you can hit him early. And this is a very nice spot to wait, very cool. fight was just so good that he wanted to show you again. One thing that happens with this game as well is you start unlocking more abilities as you beat more of the bosses. So from the very first boss you unlock a body slam. From the second one you unlock a double jump, which he has now. From this one he's going to unlock something called the Death Tornado Spin. And that means that as you're spinning, if you just mash the square button more, then you can spin for a really long time. That's going to be really useful because when you're doing that Death Tornado Spin, you actually can kind of hover in the air for a little while without losing too much height. And that's really good for making it over long pits without having to double jump, because double jumping is really slow and yeah, it kills all your speed when you double jump. So you'll only see him double jumping if it's a very rare part of the route or if he's desperately trying to save something and not die. And that's the entropy fight. So there's a glitch that sometimes happens after this fight where you skip the animation of Crash tumbling out like this, but that only happens if you have the sound effects on. So we definitely weren't going to see it there. And it does save time, that glitch, but it's not worth the trade-off. It's better to turn sound effects off and skip all these cutscenes. It took me a really long time to make the Taz run. I'm trying to think. So I've done 3 Tazs of this game. I did all 3 categories, any percent, and then any percent no item glitch, which is this run, and then I did 105%. Probably the longest one was any percent no item glitch, and I think that took me about 6 to 8 months to do. But I was working on it a lot through that Taz, through that time. But yeah, Tazzing takes a really long time if you want to optimize everything. Yeah, it's a good final product. I've also heard of some Tazzes taking years to make as well. Like I think Spyro 3 took years, Banjo-Kazooie, 100% that took years to make. See why this level is fairly simple for speed tech. It is really scary to try and not lose your masks because they are extremely important. If we've got any donations now would be a great time. So you see him sometimes skipping the ramps that look like you're supposed to go up them. The reason he does that is because the ramps, they don't give you or make you lose any speed, but they do lock you into going forward off of them, and sometimes he wants to do a sharp turn after a ramp. So that's why he skips them sometimes.
They're better, the originals.
I also prefer the originals. The remasters look nice though, and the flying levels are nice on Crash 3 in the remasters. He's going to do a big skip here, going diagonally, saves time. And it was off screen, but he did use the tornado spin to keep all of his height off screen there, so he didn't fall down into the pit. So you'll see him sometimes do slide spins as well to space out his movement correctly, rather than neutral slide jumps. Slide spins are... They're faster if you can do absolutely frame-perfect zigzagging, which is really, really fast. But otherwise, neutral slide jumps are better. But it really depends on context. I think we might have a little skip coming up here for this next platform. Using the Death Tornado spin here. And yeah, you can just skip waiting for that. The first platform is a little bit too long though to skip. Unless you're a Taz. It does go to show you how hard these levels can get. And he was jumping around those little laser things there, which yeah, does make it a lot more difficult, but it does save time. So a lot of these deaths he could have probably avoided, but it would have meant that he had to slow down a lot. And it's just that trade-off that you make sometimes. Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't pay off. Managing his Death Tornado spins really well there to keep high through that whole section. Those lifts as well are kind of inconsistent with how long they take to kind of take you up the lifts. If you get there too quickly for those lifts, they take a really long time. Everyone's favorite levels coming up now, Tomb Waiter. This can kill a lot of runs, and yeah, the water cycle can be really annoying to deal with. Sometimes people actually, I think in 105% with the time trial, sometimes people die in this level just to get the water cycle in a really good spot. But Rex is just going to go straight for it, and he's doing it quite well. So lots of use of Death Tornado spin here just to keep height above that water. But if he does fall into this water, he's going to die. So he has to be really careful of that. And if you do manage to get an invincibility in this level, then the water stays down the whole time for you. But unfortunately, the masks haven't worked out well enough for that. Nice. Oh. But again, we got this trade-off. He could have avoided the deaths, but yeah. There's a trade-off between being safe and going fast, really. Another interesting thing about this game is you can actually jump off nitro boxes without getting hurt. I'm not sure if we're going to see any of that in this run, but yeah, it can be quite interesting to see. And the reason for that is when the nitros explode, the explosion takes a little while to expand, so you can outrun it by doing a jump. Yeah, we could. If you can pull one off, I don't, no pressure. So we've got another fantastic level coming up here. You can move while the, you notice Coco's head was turning a little bit in that cutscene. You can move during the cutscene. And that gets you going towards this blimp here a little bit sooner. Pretty much where you have to shoot down these blimps. And while it looks like if you have really good accuracy, you would be able to shoot them down from really far away. They actually don't load in until you're quite close. So even something like a tool-assisted speedrun has to get really close to these blimps before it can shoot them. And that goes for RTA as well. So there's also a glitch that can happen at the end of this level, which happens if you die at exactly the same time that you finish the level. And that skips a little cutscene at the end, but Rex is not going to be going for that because nobody goes for that because it's a stupid strategy. It does save time, but it's insanely risky. Now we have Engine coming up with it's another flying bus where you have to shoot all the parts of Engine's machine. The pattern that you get can be a little bit different sometimes, but generally Rexaaayyy is going to try and shoot them in such a way that he doesn't have to wait for the last one to open up. Generally, one of the things that you wait on a lot is this last arm to come up, and then you can just finish off the little bits at the top here. There's actually one of the runners of this game had a really weird glitch where on their version of the game, Engine only took half the amount of hits to defeat. I'm not sure if we ever figured out what the cause of that was, but yeah, it would be really nice to figure that out one day. For now, we're just going to go with the full amount of hits like 99% of the people have. So yeah, he has to just shoot these 4 things on top. With the 2 openings on the top and the middle, you can actually shoot those middle 2 at the same time with 1 bullet, but it's insanely precise, and without any kind of indication of health, you wouldn't even know if Rexaaayyy had done it. But generally, if you try and aim for the middle, you sometimes do get 2 of those hits in one shot. And that was a really solid Engine fight. 64 health left, which is really good, but more importantly, it was really fast as well. And now he's got the Fruit Bazooka, which is a very useful... No, it's not. It's a terrible upgrade, and I don't think we're going to see it used at all in this run. It's sometimes used in 105% to shoot some boxes, but, you know, we don't really need to shoot any boxes. This is a really good level because it gives you a big stack of 3 mask boxes, and that is basically a free invincibility. So the level ordering in this game is often determined by what masks you actually need, and doing the Engine fight takes away all your masks. So he has no masks here, no matter how well he played before. And so this is a really good level to start off this warp room with, just because you get those 3 masks for the invincibility. Also, the other flying level Mad Bombers in this set of warp rooms, I believe that takes away your masks as well. So he's going to probably leave that till last, or at least until after all the platforming levels are done. Oh no. Nice. Some very good improvisation by Rexaaayyy there.
Boys get closer.
this is the last feature level in the game. This one introduces some of those really big enemies you can see in the background, and I think he's going to jump around, I think all of them? Yeah. So that saves a lot of time over just waiting for their cycle to shoot. Wow. That was very well played there. Just got a checkpoint there. So this category really takes a lot of improvisation in the routing and everything. Oh. So not only do you have to do levels in different orders depending on kind of what your mask situation is, you also have to do the levels themselves differently. So if something went wrong and he took a hit, but he was expecting to have an invincibility, then he has to know how to play through the level really good without invincibility. So there's a lot that goes into it and a lot of practice. There's a cool ground pound through the thing there. There's a weird glitch that can happen sometimes at the end of this level where you actually lose sound in this bit for some reason. Yeah, I don't know exactly why it works, but it is interesting when it happens. So this is the last of the driving levels, and it's probably, so we've had 3 driving levels so far, and the general consensus is that the middle driving level is actually the hardest. It's also the longest, and yeah, I don't know why they put this one so late in the game, but yeah, it's quite strange how they did that. This level has a lot of sharp corners, so he won't be keeping the boost through the whole level, but he will be keeping them for as long as he can. We've got a whole skip here, so yeah, normally you'd fall down there and die, but if you have precise positioning, you can actually get past it. And that was really well done, getting past the police car there. Yeah, very well played. Now this corner's probably too sharp to be keeping the boost through, so yeah. It's better to know that you're not going to be able to do it and slow down manually rather than skidding out into the dirt. If you go too far into the dirt, you have a slow animation of being pulled back onto the road, which is really bad. with this part at the end, it's actually better to just do this rather than going over the boosts and jumps. Because when you go over the jump, you lose your wheelie and you lose a lot of speed. We've got the last flying level here, and this level's, some consider it to be the hardest level in the whole Crash trilogy. And the reason for that is because these planes do so much damage to you. And not only that, but you have to hit their two sort of engine-y bits. And they're really hard to hit. The hitboxes on them are terrible. Sometimes you are able to hit actually both of the engines with one bullet, but it's quite inconsistent where you have to aim for that. So Rexaaayyy will have specific setups. These planes sort of fly the same way each time. So he knows exactly where he's going to get to the next planes optimally. And the runners plan this out, and they do it in the same order every time. But if something were to go wrong, he would have to think on the fly here and really figure out what plane to do next. Each of these engines takes 10 hits to destroy, and similar to Bye Bye Blimps, you can't sort of hit them until they're pretty close to you because they're not fully loaded in until then. But he's doing a very good job here of hitting the engines accurately and quickly. Again, there's a glitch where you can die and finish the level at the same time to skip a little animation at the end, but it's definitely not worth going for in runs. Because if that were to go wrong, you'd have to do the whole level again. Very well played. Still had 42% health left, which I think you'll be happy with. Yeah, because it can be very easy to die in that level. And yeah, he's left that level until last because it takes away your masks. Final level.
Time is on when I press triangle to get rid of the ability box.
So in this fight, you pretty much have to not die and hit him into the hole 3 times. There's a lot of waiting around, so it's pretty much an auto-scroller kind of fight. But at the end of the run, it's really easy to die because you don't have any masks. And it can be an extremely stressful way to end a run, especially if you're on good pace. But yeah, with enough practice, Rexaaayyy is doing really well here. And these bombs, where Cortex throws the bombs, are random, so if they went into a bad spot, it can really screw you over. The bombs made him lose a little bit of time there, but it's definitely better than dying to the bombs. Time's coming up soon. Time. So speedrun.com has leaderboards for this game, and it has lots of resources. I believe it has a link to the Discord. Yep, does have a link to the Discord. So the community there is really helpful. If you have any questions about the game, joining the Discord is a really good idea, and people will be more than happy to help you out. Also, you can come to talk to me or Rexaaayyy about the game. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. Is there anything you want to say?
Stick around for the next run.
Rexaayy's got a really good game coming up next.